Rain hammered the alley like a punishment from God. Owen Lowry pressed his back against the brick wall, his $1,000 suit soaked through, his breath coming in shallow gasps. He shouldn't be here. Shouldn't have followed her. Shouldn't be watching the only person he trusted hand a white envelope to 3 hooded men under a flickering yellow street lamp. But he was, and he couldn't look away. "This is light, Madison." The Viper leader's voice cut through the rain like a blade. He thumbed through the cash, his lip curling. Interest went up. "It's every cent I have." Madison's voice trembled. Her maid's uniform was drenched, clinging to her exhausted frame. "Just tell me he's eating. Tell me he's safe." "He eats when you pay." Owen's eyes dropped to the small figure pressed against Madison's leg. A child, 5, maybe 6 years old, shivering, silent, clinging to her like she was the only solid thing in a drowning world. "Who is that boy?" "You miss next week?" the Viper leader continued, stepping closer. "We send the boy to the orphanage." He smiled. "Or worse." Madison pulled the child tighter against her. "I'll have it, I swear." Owen stepped backward. His heel caught a bottle. The glass skittered across the wet concrete like a gunshot. 3 hooded heads snapped toward the shadows. Madison's eyes found him. Wide, terrified, shattered. "Run!" Owen ran. He ran until his lungs burned and the rain swallowed the alley behind him. He ran until he collapsed against his car, gasping, soaked, his mind screaming a single question. Who the hell is Madison Webb? 48 hours earlier. The penthouse was a monument to emptiness. 47 floors above Manhattan, Owen Lowry lived in 3,000 square feet of cold marble, colder glass, and silence so thick it felt like a physical weight. No photographs on the walls, no personal touches, no evidence that a human being actually lived here. Just money. And the paranoia that came with it. Owen stood before the safe in his study, his jaw tight, his blood running cold. Empty. $50,000. Gone. He'd checked it 3 days ago. Counted the stacks himself. Now there was nothing but shadow and the faint smell of old paper. Someone had stolen from him. Owen pulled up the security footage on his laptop. 48 hours of recordings, every angle, every corner. He scrubbed through the timeline with surgical precision, his eyes burning, his patience fraying. 3:47 a.m., 2 nights ago, the study door opened. Madison. She moved through the room in her black and white uniform, a feather duster in her hand. Normal, routine. But then, she paused at the safe. Just for a moment. Just long enough to glance at it. Her hand hovered near the keypad before she turned away and continued dusting. Owen rewound the footage, watched it again. And again. She knows the code. His stomach turned. Madison Webb had worked for him for 3 years. She was the first face he saw in the morning, the last voice he heard at night. She cleaned his home, managed his schedule, anticipated his needs before he spoke them. She was the only person he almost trusted. Almost. Owen didn't confront her. Confrontation was for amateurs, for men who let emotion override strategy. Owen Lowry hadn't built a tech empire by being emotional. He'd built it by watching, waiting, letting his enemies reveal themselves. So he watched. He watched Madison arrive at 6 a.m., punctual as always, watched her prepare his breakfast without being asked, watched her move through the penthouse like a ghost, efficient, silent, invisible. He noticed things he'd never noticed before. The dark circles under her eyes, the way she winced when she lifted the heavy vacuum, the fading bruise on her wrist that she kept tugging her sleeve to cover. She looked exhausted, hollowed out, like something was eating her from the inside. Guilt, Owen thought. That's what guilt looks like. That night, he tested her. Madison. He didn't look up from his laptop. I need you to work late tomorrow. I'm expecting documents that require immediate filing. Of course, Mr. Lowry. The safe combination. You remember it? A pause. Barely a heartbeat. But Owen caught it. You gave it to me for emergencies, sir, in case you needed documents while traveling. Good. He turned a page. That will be all. She left without another word. Owen stared at the door long after it closed. His father had trusted people. His father had believed in loyalty, in goodness, in the fundamental decency of human beings. His father had died broke and betrayed. Owen wouldn't make the same mistake. Tomorrow night, he would follow her, and he would find out exactly who Madison Webb really was. The next day, Owen watched her like a predator tracking wounded prey. He worked from home, something he never did, positioning himself in the living room where he could observe Madison's movements without being obvious. Laptop open, documents spread. The perfect illusion of a man too busy to notice. But he noticed everything. She arrived at 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes early, same as always. Her uniform was pressed, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, her posture straight despite the exhaustion carved into her face. She moved through the penthouse with mechanical precision, dusting, polishing, vacuuming. Her hands never stopped, but her eyes were somewhere else. Owen watched her wince as she lifted a heavy vase, watched her pause at the window, staring at nothing, her reflection hollow in the glass. Watched her sleeve ride up as she reached for a high shelf. Bruises, dark purple and sickly yellow, wrapped around her wrist like a bracelet of violence. She caught him looking. Her sleeve dropped instantly. Her face went blank. Can I get you anything, Mr. Lowry? No. She returned to her work. Owen's jaw tightened. Who's hurting you, Madison? And why won't you tell me? The answer came at noon. Owen's phone buzzed. His accountant confirming a safe transfer from his father's old trust. Routine. Boring. But when Owen mentioned the call at lunch, Madison's reaction was anything but routine. My father's estate finally cleared probate, Owen said casually, watching her pour his coffee. Took 3 years, but it's done. The coffee pot trembled. Just slightly, just enough. That's good news, sir. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flickered toward the study, toward the portrait of Owen's father that hung above the fireplace. You never met him, did you? My father? No, sir. Too fast. Too flat. I was hired after he passed. Owen sipped his coffee. Strange. He would have liked you. He always said the measure of a person is how they treat the invisible people. Madison's hand froze on the coffee pot. Will that be all, sir? For now? She left the room. But not before Owen saw it. The tremble in her fingers, the tightness in her shoulders, the way she couldn't look at his father's portrait without flinching. She's hiding something about my father. That afternoon, Owen searched her personnel file. Madison Webb, 28 years old, no family listed, no emergency contact. Previous employment, a nursing home in Brooklyn, a hotel in Queens, a catering company that went bankrupt. Nothing remarkable, nothing suspicious. Nothing explained why a woman with no connections would steal $50,000 and hand cash to gangsters in rain-soaked alleys. Owen closed the file. The answers weren't on paper. They were in the places Madison went when she thought no one was watching. The people she met. The secrets she kept behind those exhausted eyes. Tonight, he would follow her again. Tonight, he would find the truth. He didn't know that the truth would destroy everything he thought he knew about his father, about Madison, about himself. Madison left through the service entrance. Owen waited 30 seconds, then followed. She walked fast. Head down, shoulders hunched, a black coat pulled tight against the November wind. No umbrella, no purse, just a white envelope clutched in her hand. The money. Owen kept his distance, using the shadows and late-night crowds as cover. 3 years of living in the same space, and he'd never noticed how small she looked outside the penthouse. How vulnerable. How afraid. She took the subway, the 2 train, heading south. Owen slipped into the next car, watching her through the scratched window between compartments. She sat alone, the envelope pressed against her chest like a shield, her eyes fixed on nothing. The stations blurred past. Midtown. Chelsea. The Village. She didn't move. At Flatbush Avenue she stood. Owen followed. Brooklyn at midnight was a different planet. The streets were darker here, narrower. Garbage piled on corners like forgotten monuments. Men huddled in doorways, their eyes tracking Owen's expensive coat with predatory interest. Madison walked faster. She turned down an alley, then another, then up a rusted fire escape that groaned under her weight. Owen stopped across the street, pressing himself into the shadow of a defunct bodega. Madison reached the 3rd floor, knocked twice. A door opened. She disappeared inside. Owen waited. 5 minutes. 10. His feet ached. His hands were numb. But he didn't move. Then, light. A window on the 3rd floor flickered to life. Thin curtains, but not thick enough to hide what was inside. Owen crossed the street, found a better angle, looked up, and saw him. A boy. 5 years old? Maybe 6. Thin arms, messy brown hair, wearing pajamas 2 sizes too big. Madison knelt before him, her hands on his shoulders. She was speaking. Owen couldn't hear the words, but her face said everything. Love, desperation, grief. She pulled the boy into her arms and held him like he was the only thing in the world that mattered. Then she started to cry. Silent sobs that shook her whole body. The boy patted her back with small, clumsy hands, trying to comfort a woman who was clearly breaking apart. Owen watched. His chest tightened. Who is that child? Why is she paying gangsters for him? And what does any of this have to do with my money? He didn't have answers, but for the first time, he wasn't sure Madison was the villain in this story. He returned to the penthouse at 3 a.m. The lobby was empty except for one man. Grady, the night security guard. 63 years old. Gray beard, eyes that had seen too much and said too little. Grady looked up from his desk. Owen looked back. Neither spoke, but something passed between them. A recognition. An understanding. The silent acknowledgement of 2 men who had both been watching the same woman. Owen stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and in the mirrored reflection, he saw Grady pick up a small notebook and write something down. The next evening, Owen found Grady in the basement. The old security guard sat in his cramped office, a converted storage closet with a desk, 3 monitors, and a coffee maker that looked older than Owen. The walls were covered with schedules, incident reports, and a single photograph of a woman who might have been Grady's wife. Grady didn't look surprised to see him. Mr. Lowry, he leaned back in his chair. Wondered when you'd come. Owen closed the door. You've been watching her. It wasn't a question. So have you. Grady's voice was calm, unhurried, the voice of a man who had stopped being impressed by billionaires a long time ago. Saw you come in at 3 last night, saw you follow her out the night before that. Then you know what she's doing. I know she's paying money to dangerous people. Grady reached for his coffee. What I don't know is why you think that makes her a thief. Owen's jaw tightened. $50,000 is missing from my safe. And you think she took it. She knows the combination. So do I. Grady sipped his coffee. You gonna accuse me next? Silence stretched between them. Owen stepped closer. If you know. Something, Grady. Now's the time. Grady studied him for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out two objects, a worn leather logbook and a cheap burner phone, its screen cracked, its case held together with tape. She dropped this 3 weeks ago. He slid the phone across the desk. Didn't notice. I picked it up. Was going to give it back, but then I saw what was on it. Owen took the phone. The screen was locked. Code 0715, Grady said. The boy's birthday. Owen entered the numbers. The phone opened to a text conversation. Viper Loans. Payment received. Balance $487,000. Interest compounds monthly. Miss a payment and the collateral is forfeit. Madison. I'll have it. Just keep him safe. Viper Loans. The old man should have thought about that before he borrowed from us. His debt. Your problem now. Owen's blood ran cold. The old man, he whispered. Your father. Grady's voice was gentle now, almost sad. Madison ain't paying her debt, Mr. Lowry. She's paying his. The phone nearly slipped from Owen's fingers. That's impossible. My father was wealthy. He didn't need loan sharks. Your father was broke when he died. Grady opened the logbook, turned to a marked page. I've been in this building for 31 years. I saw him in those last months. Desperate, scared, selling things, borrowing from people no man should borrow from. He paused. The Vipers were his last resort. Owen stared at the logbook. Dates, times, notes in Grady's careful handwriting. Harold Lowry, meeting with unknown males. 2:14 a.m. Harold Lowry, received envelope, distressed, Harold Lowry, last seen alive. Why didn't you tell anyone? Who would have believed me? Grady closed the book. A security guard accusing a billionaire of being in debt to the mob? Owen's hands were shaking. The boy. Who is he? Grady met his eyes. That's not my secret to tell, Mr. Lowry. But if I were you... He nodded toward the elevator. I'd ask Madison before it's too late. Owen took the stairs. 27 flights. His lungs burned. His legs screamed. But the elevator was too slow, and the guilt clawing at his chest wouldn't let him stand still. She's been paying my father's debt. She's been protecting that boy, and I treated her like a criminal. He burst through the penthouse door, already rehearsing the apology, the explanation, the promise to make things right. Madison. Silence. The penthouse was dark, empty. The air felt wrong, too still, too cold, like something vital had been removed. Madison. Nothing. He found her uniform first, folded neatly on the kitchen counter, the black dress, the white apron, pressed and perfect, like she was returning a borrowed costume. Beside it, a note. Owen's hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. Mr. Lowry, I can't protect him anymore. I'm sorry. Please don't look for me. It's better this way. Owen read it 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. I can't protect him anymore. The boy, the child in the rundown apartment. The one she held like he was the last precious thing in a burning world. Owen ran to the service quarters. Madison's locker was unlocked. Inside, nothing. No clothes, no personal items, no evidence she had ever existed in this place, except a photograph, taped to the back of the locker door, hidden from casual view. Owen pulled it free. The boy stared back at him. Brown hair, thin face, and eyes. Owen stopped breathing. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. He'd seen them every day of his childhood. He'd seen them in the portrait above his fireplace. He'd seen them in the mirror before his father's features faded from his own face. His father's eyes. A document was paper-clipped to the photo. Medical letterhead. Official stamps. The words blurred, but 2 lines screamed from the page, DNA paternity analysis. Result 99.97% match. Harold James Lowry. Owen's knees buckled. The boy wasn't Madison's son. He was Owen's brother, and Madison had sacrificed everything to protect him. Owen didn't think. He grabbed the burner phone from his pocket and dialed the last number. 1 ring. 2. Click. Well, well. The Viper leader's voice slithered through the speaker. The billionaire son finally calls. Took you long enough. Where is she? Straight to business. I respect that. A pause. The sound of movement. A muffled cry in the background. Your maid is here. So is the boy. They're comfortable. For now. Owen's grip tightened on the phone. What do you want? What your father owed us. What Madison couldn't pay. The voice hardened. $1 million, cash, by midnight. That's 4 hours. Then you'd better move fast, Mr. Lowry. And if I call the police? Laughter. Cold. Empty. Then we mail you pieces of them, starting with the boy's fingers. A beat. He has your father's eyes, you know. Shame to waste them. Owen's stomach lurched. Where? Warehouse 17, Red Hook Docks. Come alone. No cops, no security, just you and a bag full of... money! The Viper's voice dropped. And Mr. Lowry, if I smell a setup, they die before you reach the door. The line went dead. Owen stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then he moved. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, the burner phone. He was halfway to the elevator when he stopped. Come alone. The Vipers would kill him. Take the money. Kill Madison and the boy anyway. That's how men like them operated. No witnesses, no loose ends, no mercy. He needed backup. He needed someone the Vipers wouldn't see coming. Owen found Grady in the lobby. The old security guard looked up from his desk, his eyes sharp despite the late hour. Mr. Lowry, you look like hell. They have her. Owen's voice was raw. They have Madison and the boy. Warehouse 17, Red Hook, midnight. Grady stood slowly. How much are they asking? 1 million. You gonna pay? I'm going to get them back. Owen met his eyes. I need your help. Silence stretched between them. Grady had spent 31 years watching doors, opening gates, nodding at rich people who never learned his name. He was invisible, forgettable. Exactly the kind of man the world overlooked. Exactly the kind of man who could change everything. What do you need? Backup. Someone to call the police if I don't walk out. Someone who knows where to find me if this goes wrong. That's suicide, Mr. Lowry. Those men have my brother. The word felt foreign on Owen's tongue. Heavy. Real. And the woman who's been protecting him while I sat in my penthouse counting money. Grady studied him for a long moment. Then he reached under his desk and pulled out a worn leather holster. Inside, a revolver that had seen decades of use. 31 years, Grady said quietly. Never fired this on the job, never needed to. He held it out. Tonight might be different. Owen took the gun. It was heavier than he expected. If I'm not back by 12:30, call the police. Tell them everything. Grady nodded. Mr. Lowry. His voice stopped Owen at the door. Bring them home. Owen stepped into the night. The rain had started again. The warehouse loomed like a rotting tooth against the black sky. Owen killed the headlights 2 blocks away, letting his Aston Martin crawl through the darkness. Rain hammered the windshield. The wipers beat a funeral rhythm. Somewhere ahead, through the sheets of water, he could see the faint glow of lights inside Warehouse 17. They were waiting for him. He stopped 50 feet from the gate. The duffel bag sat in the passenger seat. $1 million in unmarked bills, every cent he could pull from his emergency accounts in 4 hours. Enough to buy Madison's life. The boy's life. Maybe. Or maybe the Vipers would take the money and kill them anyway. Owen stared at the warehouse. His hands were shaking. His heart was slamming against his ribs. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around. Call the police. Let professionals handle this. But professionals didn't know Madison had spent 3 years paying his father's sins. Professionals didn't know a 6-year-old boy with Lowry eyes was inside that building. Professionals didn't owe them anything. Owen did. He put the car in gear. The engine roared. And Owen Lowry drove his $200,000 sports car straight through the warehouse gate. Metal screamed. The gate exploded inward, twisted steel screeching across concrete. The Aston Martin plowed through crates, pallets, debris, a battering ram of chrome and fury, before slamming into a support beam and dying in a hiss of smoke and shattered glass. Silence. Then the warehouse erupted. Shouts, footsteps, the click of weapons being drawn. Owen kicked open the driver's door and stepped out of the wreckage. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead. His shoulder screamed where the seatbelt had caught him, but he was standing. He was walking, and in his hand the duffel bag hung like an offering. The Vipers surrounded him. 6 men, hooded, armed, their faces hidden in shadow, their intentions written in the guns pointed at his chest. Mr. Lowry. The Viper leader emerged from the darkness, clapping slowly. That was dramatic. Where are they? Patience. The leader stopped 10 feet away. His smile gleamed in the dim light. First, the money. Owen threw the duffel bag at his feet. The leader nodded to one of his men, who knelt and unzipped the bag. Stacks of hundreds. Neat, clean, exactly $1 million. Impressive. The leader kicked the bag closed. Your father could never pull this much together. That's why he died owing us. My father is dead. His debt dies with him. That's not how this works. The leader stepped closer. Debt is inherited, Mr. Lowry, like eye color, like that penthouse you live in. He smiled. Like the boy. Owen's jaw tightened. Where are they? The leader snapped his fingers. A door opened at the far end of the warehouse. 2 Vipers emerged, dragging Madison between them. Her face was bruised, her lip split. But her eyes burned with defiance. Behind her, the boy. Eli, his brother. Small, terrified, clinging to Madison's leg exactly like he had in the alley. Madison saw Owen. Her eyes widened. You shouldn't have come. I had to. They'll kill you. Owen looked at the Vipers, at the guns, at the impossible odds stacked against him. Probably. He cracked his knuckles. But not before I hurt them. Owen moved first. He grabbed a broken pipe from the wreckage of his car and swung it at the nearest Viper's skull. The crack echoed through the warehouse like a gunshot. The man dropped. Then chaos erupted. Owen wasn't a fighter. He'd never thrown a punch outside a boxing gym, never been in a real brawl, never felt knuckles crack against bone with intent to kill. But he had something the Vipers didn't expect. Desperation. He swung the pipe again, caught a second Viper in the ribs. The man doubled over, gasping. Owen drove his knee into the man's face. Blood sprayed across the concrete. 2 down. 4 to go. The third Viper tackled him from behind. Owen hit the ground hard. The pipe skittered away. Fists rained down. His face, his ribs, his kidneys. Each blow was a detonation of pain. He couldn't breathe, couldn't see, but he could hear Madison screaming his name. Owen grabbed a fistful of gravel and hurled it into the Viper's eyes. The man reeled back, clawing at his face. Owen scrambled to his feet, grabbed the pipe, and swung. The Viper crumpled. 3 down. The fourth caught him with a punch that spun his vision sideways. Owen staggered. Blood filled his mouth. His legs buckled. Get up. Another punch. His cheekbone cracked. Get up. He fell to his knees. The warehouse swam in and out of focus. Somewhere distant he heard Eli crying. heard Madison begging them to stop. The Viper stood over him, pulling back for the final blow. Owen caught his wrist, twisted. The bone snapped like dry wood. The Viper screamed. Owen drove his forehead into the man's nose. Cartilage crunched. The Viper collapsed, writhing, clutching his ruined arm. 4 down. Owen turned toward Madison. 2 Vipers still held her, and behind them, the leader, pressing a gun against Eli's temple. "Stop!" Owen froze. The leader's smile had vanished. His face was cold now, calculating. The face of a man deciding whether to cut his losses or make a point. "Impressive, Mr. Lowry." His voice was ice. "Your father begged, cried, promised us everything, but you—" He cocked the hammer. "You actually fight. Let them go." "Why would I do that?" "Because I'm the one you want." Owen stepped forward. Blood dripped from his face. His ribs screamed with every breath, but his voice was steady. "My father's debt, my inheritance, my name. I'm worth more to you alive than they are dead." The leader tilted his head. "Go on. Take me, keep me, ransom me for 10 times what's in that bag." Owen spread his arms. "But let them walk out of here, right now." Madison shook her head. Violently. "Owen, no! Quiet!" The leader studied Owen like a bug under glass. "You'd die for them? A maid and a bastard half-brother you didn't know existed until today?" "Yes." "Why?" Owen looked at Eli. The boy's eyes, his father's eyes, were wide with terror. Tears streaked his dirty face. He was 6 years old, and he had already seen more horror than most adults would see in a lifetime. Because of Owen's family, because of debts and secrets and sins passed down like poison. "Because someone has to break the cycle." Owen's voice cracked. "My father couldn't, but I can." Silence. The leader pressed the gun harder against Eli's temple. "Noble," he shrugged, "but stupid." He swung the gun toward Owen. "Your father owed us. Now you die for his sins." Owen closed his eyes. "I'm sorry, Madison. I'm sorry, Eli. I tried." The gunshot never came. Instead, sirens. Blue and red lights exploded through the warehouse windows. Tires screeched. Doors slammed. Voices shouted commands that bounced off the walls like thunder. The leader's face twisted. "What did you do?" Owen smiled through the blood. "I made a friend." The warehouse doors exploded inward. Police flooded the space. SWAT gear, tactical lights, weapons drawn. Behind them, a private security team in black body armor. And at the center of the storm, walking through the chaos as he owned it, Grady. The old security guard held a radio in one hand and Owen's location tracker in the other. His face was granite. His eyes swept the warehouse, found Owen, and nodded once. "I told you I'd call backup." "NYPD, drop your weapons on the ground now!" The Vipers scattered like roaches in sudden light. 2 bolted for the back exit, tackled by SWAT before they made it 10 feet. Another tried to climb a stack of crates. A taser brought him down screaming. The remaining men hit the concrete, hands behind their heads. The fight drained out of them. All except one. The Viper leader grabbed Eli, pressing the gun against the boy's head, backing toward a side door. "Stay back!" His voice cracked with desperation. "I'll kill him! I swear to God I'll—" Madison moved. 3 years of exhaustion, 3 years of fear, 3 years of bowing her head and taking abuse and protecting a child who wasn't even hers. It all erupted in a single moment. She tore free from her captors and lunged at the leader. Her body slammed into his arm. The gun went off, a deafening crack that echoed through the warehouse, but the shot went wide, punching into the ceiling. Eli fell free. The leader stumbled, raised the gun toward Madison. Owen was already moving. He hit the leader like a freight train. They crashed through a stack of pallets, splinters flying, the gun skittering across the concrete. Owen's fists found the man's face. Once, twice, 3 times, each blow carrying the weight of every lie, every debt, every year his brother had spent in fear. "You punch! Don't!" Punch. Touch. Punch. "My family!" Arms pulled him back. "Police! Security!" Voices shouting for him to stop. Owen let them. The Viper leader lay motionless on the concrete, his face a bloody ruin, his empire of fear collapsing around him. Handcuffs clicked. It was over. Owen turned. Madison knelt on the warehouse floor, Eli wrapped in her arms. Both of them are shaking. Both of them are crying. Both of them are alive. Owen's legs gave out. He crawled toward them, literally crawled, his broken body refusing to carry him any farther. Blood dripped from his face. His ribs screamed, his vision blurred at the edges, but he kept moving until he reached them, until he could wrap his arms around both of them, until they were together. "You came." Madison's voice was a broken whisper. "You actually came." "I'm sorry." Owen's throat tightened. "I'm sorry I didn't see it. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry for everything." "You came. That's all that matters." Eli squirmed between them. His small hand reached up and touched Owen's bloody face. "Are you my brother?" The question hit Owen like a bullet to the chest. He looked at the boy, really looked at him. The brown hair, the thin face, the eyes that belonged to a dead man who had left behind nothing but debt and secrets. "Yeah, kid." Owen's voice cracked. Tears spilled down his cheeks, mixing with the blood. "I'm your brother." Eli stared at him for a long moment. Then he wrapped his small arms around Owen's neck and held on like he would never let go. "I always wanted a brother." Owen broke, he sobbed. Ugly, heaving sobs that shook his entire body. 3 years of loneliness. 35 years of building walls. A lifetime of believing he was the last of his family. All of it washed away in the arms of a 6-year-old boy he hadn't known existed until today. Madison held them both. And for the first time in years, Owen Lowry wasn't alone. 1 week later. Manhattan General Hospital. The room smelled like antiseptic and expensive flowers. Owen sat propped against pillows, his face a map of fading bruises, his ribs wrapped tight beneath the hospital gown. 3 cracked bones, a fractured cheekbone, 17 stitches. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. He didn't feel lucky. He felt awake. Madison stood by the window, dressed in street clothes, jeans, a gray sweater, sneakers that had seen better days. No uniform, no apron, no invisible armor. She looked smaller without it. Younger. Human. The police finished their investigation. Her voice was quiet. The Viper leader is facing 30 years. RICO charges, racketeering, assault, attempted murder. She paused. Your father's debt is officially void. They can't collect on illegal loans. Good. Silence stretched between them. Madison picked up her bag from the chair. I should go. Eli's with the social worker. I need to sign some papers before... Madison. She stopped. Owen's voice was steady. Calm. The voice of a man who had made a decision and wasn't going to back down. You're fired. Madison flinched. She nodded slowly, her eyes dropping to the floor. No argument, no protest, just acceptance, the same quiet resignation she'd worn for 3 years. I understand, Mr. Lowry. No. Owen reached for the drawer beside his bed. You don't. He pulled out a manila envelope. Thick, heavy, stamped with legal seals. You can't be my maid anymore, Madison. He held out the envelope. Because maids don't control $40 million estates. Madison froze. What? Open it. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. Documents spilled out. Legal papers, trust amendments, guardianship forms, and at the center, a single sheet with Owen's signature at the bottom. Declaration of Inheritance Division. Owen James Lowry, being of sound mind, hereby divide the Lowry family estate as follows: 50% to Eli Harold Lowry, my half-brother. 50% to be held in trust, managed by Madison Webb as legal guardian and executor, until Eli reaches the age of 21. Madison's hands shook so hard the papers rattled. Owen, I can't accept this. You already have. Owen's voice was thick. You accepted it 3 years ago when you took a job cleaning toilets so you could pay off a dead man's debt. You accepted it every night you went to that apartment and held a boy who wasn't yours. You accepted it when you took a beating to protect my family's secret. Madison's eyes filled with tears. He's not my son. No. Owen reached out and took her hand. He's my brother, and you're the only mother he's ever known. Madison broke. She collapsed into the chair beside his bed, sobbing. 3 years of exhaustion and fear and sacrifice pouring out of her in waves. Owen held her hand and let her cry. You protected my family when I couldn't. His voice was gentle now, soft, the voice of a man who had finally learned what loyalty looked like. Now let me protect you. Madison looked up at him. What happens now? Owen smiled, bruised, broken, but real. Now we go home. 3 months later, the penthouse wasn't cold anymore. Toys were scattered across the marble floors. Laughter echoed off the glass walls. A child's drawings hung beside a dead man's portrait. Crayon stick figures labeled Owen, Madison, and me. Eli Lowry ran through the living room, chasing a paper airplane, his giggles filling spaces that had been silent for years. Madison stood at the kitchen counter, making breakfast. Owen sat at the table, reading the newspaper. A family. Imperfect. Unexpected. Real. Owen Lowry had everything money could buy, but he didn't have a family until a maid showed him what sacrifice looked like. Madison Webb wasn't stealing from him. She was bleeding for him, paying debts that weren't hers, protecting a child who wasn't hers, carrying a secret that could have destroyed her. She didn't ask for recognition. She didn't ask for a reward. She just showed up, every single day, and loved a family that didn't even know she existed. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones holding everything together. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because every week, we tell stories about invisible people who refuse to stay invisible. Don't miss the next one. Someone in your life might be bleeding for you right now. Make sure you see them before it's too late.